And thank you again so much for coming. All right, so they're just regarding, as you know, I'm an early childhood education major. And so it's just an assignment for one of my classes. I have to interview professors or teachers, and it's just basic questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. So the first question is, how do you communicate with your students, parents, and colleagues?
Like what technologies and stuff?
However you want to go about it, like through technology, through face-to-face, however you can connect with them.
Students, parents, and colleagues. Well, I don't communicate with parents because I'm not allowed to.
Right. This is for like all.
I understand. Colleagues, probably mostly informally, like passing in the hallways kind of things. And students, I rely heavily on our LMS, on our learning management system on Canvas.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our next question is, what are your favorite classroom strategies for student learning and classroom management?
This is a good one. I used to teach middle school, and that was not easy.
That actually might be more useful because I'm an elementary school major. So you can give me both views for college and middle school if you'd like.
I wasn't very good at it in middle school. It didn't last there. They talk a lot about like eyes in the back of your head for lower levels. And I found that a lot of that is just instinct that I didn't have. But for college, I try to layer. Well, okay, so it is about classroom management, or is it about instruction?
It's classroom management and strategies for student learning.
Okay. Strategies for student learning, for sure. I take a layered approach. So I try to make sure every student gets the information 3 times at least. Once in the reading before class, once in the lecture discussion, and then hopefully once in some kind of assessment, so that there's, three layers of repetition in preferably different modes. So reading, hearing, doing. As far as management strategies, depends on the classroom. In better times, moving around and proximity is a good strategy that I like to use a lot. I'm not great at classroom flipping and the idea of like having people do some of the work at home and then like do the thing in class. But I try to do that as much as I can.
Okay.
But I'm not really good at it. I'm trying to do that.
Well, that's okay. I'm just needing your view on it to kind of I would, for the assignment, it is kind of get 3 different teachers. That's why I have an elementary school teacher, and then I have a college professor, and then so it's definitely different views on it. So the next question is, what information can you provide me on the Florida system for school improvement and accountability?
Florida system for school improvement and accountability?
Yes.
I don't know much about that. Is that related to FSA and Florida standards, or is that
more kind of? We can skip that one if you don't want to answer that one.
Okay. I have kids in schools, and I don't do the PTA stuff, so I'm not really up on
right. Okay, no problem. How do you collect and use data from formative and summative assessments to monitor learning gains and student progress?
Okay, so data from formative and summative assessments to give me the last half of that.
To monitor learning gains and student progress.
Okay. Our class is kind of specialized. So for me, the formative assessment is the Art Talk post. Right. So, I use that to monitor the first interaction with the content. So whether or not people have done the reading. If I see, you can kind of tell whether people have put that time into to actually like read the content.
Right.
But that's the only formative that I use. So, okay. And even over time, I've reduced that because I found that at least on the college level, students get frustrated with a lot of busy work.
Mhm.
So I used to have 13 of those across the semester, and I've shrunk it down to 8 because of the, I don't know what you call it, the student surveys at the end of the course.
Mhm.
That was the comment I was getting a lot, was that it was too much busy work. So I've reduced the formatives down.
Okay.
Whereas the summatives, that's the exams and the tests. So Canvas is better than Portal used to be as far as being able to show you like side by side, did all the students miss this one question,
Mhm.
or did people kind of get it? But I definitely pay attention to how many right answers I get on a question, and if everybody misses the same question, I didn't hit that content well enough,
Right.
right? But if a couple people miss it, then it's clear that they didn't study. And
Right.
so
Okay.
I don't know what you call that, like a longitudinal comparison with those assessments to figure out how many people got it. And
Right.
then if they didn't, then I hit that harder the next time I teach the class.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And then the next one kind of relates back. How do you align your formative and summative assessments with the Florida standards?
Okay, so we don't have that. We have, I think I understand what you're asking. The equivalent for that at Florida Southern would be the course description.
Right.
And so
Okay.
we do have, there are, I think for this class, there's like 5 learning objectives that I have to cover. And then I'm allowed to add to those if I want to. That's like in the syllabus as far as the course objectives.
Okay.
And they're pretty vague. Our department is very small, and the department chair gives us a lot of freedom. So it's kind of the opposite of Florida standards, where like every single day has a connection to those standards on the lesson plan. So they're pretty broad, and for this
Okay.
class, it's about vocab and language and things like that. So on my assessments, there's kind of 2 halves. There's the identification of the slide stuff, and then there's the short answer, like mini essays.
Mhm.
But I tailored the mini essays to vocabulary and context, which are the biggest of the objectives in our class.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And then the last 2 questions. First one is, oh, excuse me, 3. Tell me about your use of multisensory instruction to improve student achievement, kind of just to explain that more. I know it's harder in the student class or in a college classroom with COVID, but in my classroom, we kind of like we connect it to I'm an assistant teacher for a 4th grade class. So when we write out like our syllables and stuff, they use like past, present, and future, like hand motions to put it into their head too. So do you use anything like that in your college classroom to kind of connect not just like the coursework, but like a multi-sensory, anything else outside of the coursework to get it engraved in your students' head, kind of?
The senses that I use, obviously visual, right? So we put slides on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I do try to do auditory with like video clips.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to integrate those. I have in the past done some things where students like do the thing. So they do sketches
Okay.
of like a perspectival system or sketches of columns. I probably should go back to it. I've played around with it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a time factor, and I probably need to include more of it. But that's one strategy I've used in past iterations is having students actually sketch in addition
Right.
to being on the screen.
That's kind of what I put in my personal notes in your class is when we do the specific art pieces, I'll take a picture off of Google to put it in just so I remember like the picture with the words kind of thing.
And I will, like, when we get to photography, I am going to pass around this daguerreotype so you can like touch the artwork.
Okay.
But I don't own very many like artworks appropriate for this class to actually hand around.
Right.
But that's like I'm building my collection. So I taught Latin American art last semester, and I brought like a votive candle of Lady of Guadalupe.
Mhm.
So when it's appropriate, I try to have an object to pass around.
Okay.
My collection's not as good as it should be, and that's something I should work on.
I mean, a lot of them are classical art, so you can't really pass that around.
Yeah, I can't hand you the Mona Lisa, but
Yeah.
that's also the reason to like go to the art museum one day.
Hmm.
Some semesters there's not a very good exhibit up, and so instead we walk around the Frank Lloyd Wright buildings,
Right.
and then you can actually like touch the walls because they're not oil paintings on the wall. Sorry, call her back in a second.
All right. So the next question is, how do these standards you teach affect the scope and sequence of your curriculum?
This is a debate we've been having because the structure of our department has changed a lot in the last 2 years. We used to be
Okay.
part of like art. So it was art, design, and art history in one big department.
Okay.
And the people that used to be there, this class was called Western art. And so it was really focused on like Greece and Rome and like the not East. But since Dr. Rich became his own chair and we pulled in Dr. Carter, we tried to de-emphasize the Western and open it up a little bit more. So that's why I do like an Islam day. And I even used a different textbook. Like the old textbook was like the history of Western art in the title. There's more I can do. And that's part of my like tweaking the class every semester and like trying to make it better. But it needs to be, I need to do more to decolonialize it is like the buzzword in art history world, and get it kind of more out of the like Napoleon and the Queen of England, their personal collections driving the things we look at. But there's more work to do for that.
Mhm.
But that's something that our department, being just 3 of us, we have a lot of control over that because it's such a small institution, unlike the state of Florida where you have to like
Right.
follow what the legislature tells you to do.
Okay. And our last question is, to what level does the scope and sequence of your standard-based curriculum drive your That's kind of just what you answered, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna ask you that one. So that was our last question. Thank you so much again for meeting, especially on break. I really appreciate it.
See you Thursday.
I'll see you Thursday. Have a great afternoon.